Hello and welcome to the RCB Radio Sports Show. My name is Nicholas Ryan. I'm joined here by Seamus Hayes. We'll just have a quick look at what happened at the weekend, and then we'll go into the hurling because we have a big county final coming up on Sunday, and we're all looking forward to that. Aerogue, of course, taking on the champions Ballyea. But at the weekend, Seamus, we had a lot of action. The Camogie final was on Saturday, and it was Scariff O'Gonlow proved too strong for True Clonlara, and were worthy champions again. They had it all their own for the first half, and
yeah. I suppose they were the holders. They had beaten True Clonlara after a replay last year, and I think True Clonlara went into this one with high hopes of going that extra step. But Scariff O'Gonlow showed their experience. They took control from the off, and they took an early lead, in which they never really let go. And I suppose that was the foundation for the win. They have done a lot in the last couple of years. They've been in All Ireland junior finals. They have been in a Munster senior campaign. They're a seasoned outfit. I know they have a new management team this year, led by Alfie Rogers. Sarah Skelly is there, and Pat Minogue, who led them to great success at junior level a couple of years ago, and who was involved in when they won the senior title for the first time a few years back as well, is part of that management team. So they are an experienced backroom team, as well as having gained experience, the players, and from that point of view, I suppose they deserved their win. They deserved their favourites tag, and they proved that they deserve that, and now they're heading into a Munster campaign, and not too many will bet against them because they have really blossomed over the last 2 or 3 years and settled team now.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But they head off to Munster now, so it's tough on True Clonlara to lose their second one, but they just weren't at the races in the first half, and by the time they got going in the second half, the game had sort of gone from them. There was a big deficit, but they did pull it back towards the end.
Oh yeah, they did pull it back, and they fought to the bitter end, and I suppose while it's disappointing right now, but that experience of having contested the last 2 finals and ending up on the losing side, but that is sure to stand to them, and they have a good settled team, and they have a number of players who are part of the county panel. So there's nothing to say that their hour of glory won't come in the not too distant future. So as I said, it's disappointing right now, but when the new season comes, I suppose they will start going again, and hope to go the full hog next year.
Yeah, so congratulations to them. We talk more in depth about the county final later on. Big football weekend, 2 semi-finals, and of course Aero coming out easy winners on Sunday, but Saturday was I suppose, I don't know about the quality, but they certainly had every thrill and spill that you would want on a cold Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, certainly. I suppose full credit to Ennistimon. They have been knocking on the door in recent years. They've been in semi-finals. They got to one final, but they hadn't got over the line. Now they still haven't got over the line, but they're back in the final. They certainly have shown this year that they're a more seasoned team, and that they know how to dig out results, if you like. I suppose proof of that was last week. They had the better of the first half. Wouldn't have been flattered if they were more than 2 points up at half time, but then Kilmurray stormed back into in the second half, and very few would have bet against Kilmurray when they held a 3-point lead with the game going into injury time. And it was un-Kilmurray, I suppose, to kind of allow, I suppose, for want of a better way of putting it, allow Ennistimon to come up the field here in injury time with a great move, which resulted in a goal. I suppose young Kieran McMahon played a huge part in that. He started the move in his own full back line, carried the ball past midfield, gave it to Brindy Ruin, who is, I suppose, a guy playing with experience that far exceeds his years. He's only a teenager. He gave it to David Fitzgerald, whom you know well, and his ball across the goal mouth caused havoc in the Kilmurray defence, which wouldn't normally be the case. And Kieran McMahon had kept his run going, and he finished it to the net. Last kick of the game, levelled it, and the match went to extra time and or went to penalties, and that was a fair dramatic shootout as well. You know, because after halfway through the penalty shootout, the odds were very much stacked in Kilmurray's favour. They had scored their first two. Innisdiamond had missed two of their first three, and yet after 5 penalties they were level at 3-3, and it went to sudden death. Innisdiamond were up first, went ahead, and Kilmurray, for some reason that I can't figure out, didn't go with Keelan Sexton first in the sudden death, because they had to win. He had gone first in the regular shootout and scored. Had blasted to the net and left Innisdiamond with no chance. But this time Darren Callan, who unfortunately for him had seen his first penalty saved, this time his effort struck the upright, and the celebration started for Innisdiamond. But they seem to have had the Indian sign over Kilmurray in recent years. They beat them in the group stage this year by a goal. They beat them in a semi-final, maybe it was 2 years ago. So they seem to have the Indian sign over Kilmurray. And it was one of those days where Kilmurray had improved with every game in the championship, and they had got a more settled look about their team. But as I said, it was un-Kilmurray like the way Innisdiamond cut through their defence for that equalising goal. But look at Innisdiamond are there, and they have to be given credit. And like I mentioned, Brindy Ruin there, like for a teenager who, I don't know if he's yet 18, but he did his Leavenscert this year, to dictate the play and control the play so much. He's playing like a man far beyond his years, and he was outstanding again, kicked some great scores. But it was the manner in which he brought the fellas around him into the game, and the way he was so composed and played such a big part in the win. So they're in the final. They're going to make the breakthrough sometime soon. Maybe it's difficult to see maybe them doing it this year, because Aero, I suppose, are playing better than ever.
Yeah, indeed. Innisdiamond, well, that game, there was a lot of ifs, ands and buts and complaints that the referee had done 2 games in a row and all this, and penalty cards, all this. But on the balance of play over the 80 minutes, I think Innisdiamond deserved their win.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I certainly would agree with you. They never lost their composure, and unlike maybe in the past when they lost the lead in the second half, maybe in the past they might have been inclined maybe to throw in the towel or to collapse, for want of a better way of putting it. But they're now, even though there's still a lot of young players, they're now a fairly seasoned outfit, and there was no sign of panic in their setup. And they've been struck a couple of big blows. Like the loss of Kevin Hare after a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, was a massive blow, because he has been a big part of getting them to where they are. He wasn't in the starting team earlier in the campaign because of injury. And he came on in 2 of their earlier games and changed those games, with his powerful running at the opposition. On from the start the last day, and was going well, and then suffered an unfortunate serious knee injury, which puts him out of the final, and hopefully he won't be out for too long, but it puts him out of the final, I suppose, and out of the GA playing fields for a while. But they recovered from that as well, and they were able to bounce back, and they're not panicking, and they have gained a lot in experience, and I suppose that's down to the work of the likes of their manager Mark Shanahan, Ger Quinlan, who was a powerful influence there as the team coach, Brendan Ruin, of course, who was Mr. Innisdiamond football. I suppose I feel like he's doing so much work there for the club, chairman of the club as well, and a selector, and his sons are powerful players there. So it's great for them, but it's all about winning, and they don't want to be the team that will lose another final, if you like. So they'll be focusing very hard on the game the next day, and they know that they have a lot to do, because they're all really are playing well this year. They're a very, very seasoned outfit. They've come on in leaps and bounds since they won the championship last year. It's better they're getting, and they're a very composed team now, and they have a strong panel, very strong panel.
Yeah, they have indeed. I suppose Corofin came into town on the back of a great win, and we were expecting big things, but I think Corofin might have been a bit naive in that they thought they could play the same type of football, but Rogue were never going to let them to do that, to play open football. Corofin, Rogue pulled them into a battle more or less, and the physicality they were able, just Corofin couldn't play that same game that they had been playing, that worked so well against Lisicase, we'll say.
Yeah, correct. And Rogue kind of seemed content to let them control when let Corofin, when they had possession, to let them work it out as far as midfield. But then Rogue closed in on them, and they turned over possession so often, so many times. But with players like of the caliber of Kieran Russell, who is playing through the pain barrier, I suppose, in hurling and football this year, he's struggling to shake off any injury. But his experience, Aaron Fitzgerald, he's playing superbly. Darren O'Neill at midfield. These are all fellas that have been playing at inter-county level in hurling and football for the last couple of years, and that was very obvious. Gavin Cooney is playing with a newfound confidence this year. He's absolutely flying, as is Matt McInerney. The two of them are two powerful players in the full forward line. It will take a massive effort by any defence to keep them quiet. Whenever they meet. Whoever they'll meet, they will carry the favourites tag going into this final, and it's hard to see them being stopped at this stage. But we've seen results in the past at different grades. A 2-horse race, it's a 50-50 game, and it's all down to the day. And a lot may depend on how Rogue do this Sunday in the hurling final. They have a lot of the same players. I think Corofin suffered from the dual player syndrome, if you like. Last week, they had a very tough hurling game the previous week. And a lot of the same players were playing, and they certainly were tired. I suppose a lot of them are young, and they haven't maybe learned how to cope with the dual mandate when you're playing week on in tough championship games. They're learning from this big time, and if they keep that group together, there's no reason why they won't come back stronger next year.
Corofin can be happy with their year because they come up from intermediate, and to be in the semi-final was some achievement, for an intermediate team. They're now a senior team, of course, and rightly so.
And a team, I suppose, that were fortunate, to be fair, to win the intermediate title last year, because they were a beaten team with a minute to go, and they struck for 2 late goals. And they blossomed since then. They got better with every game this year. They went through the league, won their league game, promoted to the QC Cup. And were undefeated in the championship, or were very impressive in the championship up to last weekend. And while they will be disappointed last weekend, they went the poor return of just 3 points and being held scoreless in the second half. When they sit down and review this, they've made huge progress. And they had 2 other adult football teams involved this year as well. So they have players challenging to come through, and they will have players pressing the guys who are there now for places next year. So, I think that there's a bright future there for them. And, once they get over the initial disappointment of last week, I think they can look forward to conference to 2023.
Which brings me neatly on to Kildysart's redemption, I suppose you could call it. I don't think there's anyone in the county would begrudge Kildysart, including Cora Clare, because after heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak, they finally climbed that mountain and got to the top of the hill and county champions now.
Yeah, and they certainly did so in style, because the past month has seen a number of near misses for them, and they had the game with Shannon Gales and the controversy over the penalties, and then which they finished up on the day winning in the penalty shootout, but then having a refixture awarded. And they won that, but they were made to earn it, and that put them into a semi-final meeting with O'Curry's, which required extra time before they won by the minimum margin. And O'Curry's are noted battlers, and they went in as outsiders last week against Cora Clare, who only had been relegated last year, but they were the deserving winners on the day. They were never behind. They took the game to Cora Clare from the word go, and they were very focused on it, and like the scenes at the final whistle were memorable, really. Their supporters, who are strong in numbers and who have travelled in big numbers to all their games, were clearly overjoyed that they had finally climbed the mountain, and here they are now heading into a Munster Club Championship. And it's no more than they deserve to. They have put in such a massive effort over the last 4 or 5 seasons, and many a club would have thrown in the towel after the disappointment, particularly the loss to Corofin last year and the loss to St. Brecons 2 years earlier, when they were also ahead going into the final moments of that game and had it snatched from them. So, but they're battlers, and they had an additional blow this year of losing Dermot O'Donnell, who had been outstanding in the early part of the season, but suffered a cruciate knee injury, and they had to cope with his loss as well. But then Conor Maloney came back from his involvement in rugby, which was a big plus. Evan McMahon came back after a J1 experience in the States during the summer. So they gradually restored confidence and built back up to a good team, and that they have some players who helped the Kilcool Gales amalgamation win the 21A title last year.
Yeah.
So there's a bright future there, and they won't be found wanting at senior level, judging on what they have shown over the last couple of years.
Yeah. So congratulations, Kildare. So commiserations to Cora Clare, who made it. It was a fantastic game. I really enjoyed the game. It kept you engaged right throughout in what was a bad day. So well done to both teams. We'll have to leave the football there for now. We'll come back to it leading up to the senior final. This weekend is all about hurling, big county final. Éire Óg taking on the champions Ballyea. It's a tall order for Éire Óg, I suppose, to take on a team that has won 3 out of the last 4 county titles.
Yeah, it certainly is. But they have been Éire Óg have been knocking on the door for the past couple of years. They have been semi-finalists for the past 2 or 3 years. They've taken it a step further now this year, and they're in the final. Can they get over the line? That's the big question. I'd say most people would agree that Ballyea have played with a greater confidence, if you like, this year. They're a more settled outfit. They have more options, I suppose, more players available. With Stanley Neen, who captained them to their first success a few years ago, back in the squad this year after a spell in Australia. You have Cahill Doohan back in the squad this year after a spell in Australia, and they missed out on last year's success. But they have experience, and then they played up to the semi-final this year without Gary Brennan, who had been so effective and such a key member of the title-winning teams. But he returned at the semi-final level and came on for the second half, and I'm sure I expect he'll start this weekend. So they have a very seasoned and settled outfit. Both teams, I suppose, to be fair, are there on merit. Both they have been the 2 more consistent teams in the campaign. Although I suppose the Bridge looked likely winners for a long time, but the last day I would have to say that Éire Óg were the better team over the period, the 80 minutes, and deserve to come through. I suppose from patrons going to Cusack Park on Sunday, they're going to see the prospect of 2 of the game's best players over the last number of years at any level, in Tony Kelly with Ballyea and Shane O'Donnell with Éire Óg in action, and they have been outstanding in this campaign. You could argue, and it might be a little unfair to Éire Óg to say that Shane O'Donnell has carried them, maybe, if you like, there this year, but they've all played their part. But he has been absolutely magnificent, as Tony Kelly has. We all know what Tony has done for hurling for the last couple of years. So the prospect of seeing those 2 in opposition and seeing how much they can influence the game, I think will add to the crowd on Sunday. There'll be a lot of people who neither parish will go just to see them involved alone. So I think it has the makings of a really, really great game. I suppose for a town like Ennis to be without the senior hurling title for so long, it's over 30 years since they won the senior title, and they're a step away now from the senior double. It's a hard thing to do. We've seen that with Cratloe over the years. It's a very hard thing to do when you have so many of the same players playing week on, carrying a few knocks, like in Kieran Russell being the case in point. Because he is such a key figure in both teams, full back in the hurling team, half back in the football team. He starts a lot of moves and he goes upfield and he helps create openings. How will his knee hold up? He's struggling with a knee injury all year, but he's a Russell. He's a great-hearted player, and apart from everything else, like, he obviously has clearly skill, and he's a natural. But how can his injury hold up? And you have those questions. But it has the makings of a really, really great game, and the big hope is that we will get good conditions so that the players can express themselves and show what they're capable of.
Yeah. Before Kieran Russell came off last Sunday, he came off obviously when the game was won towards the end of the game. But he made a run up the field like a racehorse. Nobody could catch him. And you're wondering, is he only wearing that bandage as a kind of because he just didn't seem to be injured, that's for certain. He's a powerful man, and when he gets that stride going. Yeah,
he's a powerful man, and he's totally focused in on he's a great hero, man. Like, we all saw what his father Tom did for years for Aero. Tom would still play tomorrow if he was asked. And that type, that heart and soul is in the club, but he has the ability, he has the skill. He's good enough to play hurling or football at any level, and he's shown that over the last number of years. And Ballyea will have to ensure that he's not allowed to come up the field like he does. Now, I know he maybe not as often in the hurling coming from fullback, as he'd have to stay back, and the possibility of maybe facing someone like Gary Brennan, whom he'll know well from their years together with the Clare senior footballers. And he'll have a big task in that, whether it is Gary Brennan, Niall Deasy, Tony Kelly this year has spent a number of minutes in every game at full forward. So, I don't think that a row fullback or any day row fullback line will be able to go too far forward with the prospect of fellas of that ability for Ballyea in that area of the field. And I suppose it's a huge step forward for Ballyea, I suppose, from in the past decade from where they used to be. It's not that long ago since they were playing their trade at Junior B level. But the workout that has been done out there in the club, not just in the development of facilities, but in the coaching of players, the way they've come through the ranks to have them as one of the really strong teams, and like they have played at Munster level. They won the Munster Club, so they went all the way to the All-Ireland Club final a couple of years ago. I'm sure they want another crack at the Munster Club, but knowing Robbie Hogan, manager there, and how calculated he is and the way he organises things, he won't be looking past Sunday. And they'll know that there's a big challenge for them, and equally, Rogue know that they're facing a big challenge. So it has all the makings of a really, really great contest.
It has indeed. You mentioned Tom Russell there. I think Tom Russell, my years might be wrong, but he won a June as a scrawny young fella. He won a June Ray title with a Rogue I think it was 1975. He'll shoot me if I get this wrong. And 25 years later, he came back again as a slightly older fella, and he won it again. That was some record.
And I can remember 75 well, because I was playing for Lissie Casey, whom they beat in the final in a game played up in Milton Malba. And I suppose over many years, Tom Russell has been central to everything Aero have achieved, whether he'd be playing or as a team mentor. But he's been involved all the time, and he's still very much involved with the footballers that, this year and last year, and is one of the driving forces in that club. I suppose from that point of view, his name is synonymous with Aero, and he'll be driving him on there again on Sunday, watching his son. I suppose hopefully he'll be watching him play a leading role.
He will indeed. When I look at the Rogue team, and it's easy to pick out Kieran Russell, Aaron Fitzgerald, Liam Curry, David Reedy, Shane O'Donnell, Danny Russell, they're the big names in the team. But if you look at Oran Cahill, David McNamara, Niall McMahon, Aidan McGrath, Conor Cooney, of course, another big name. Gavin Cooney, and Darren O'Brien. I mean, these are all big players. Jarlath Collins. They give a huge amount to the team as well. Like, it isn't all about even though the last day it was the David Reedy, Shane O'Donnell show, but the work that the boys are doing, the likes of Niall McMahon, he does it in hurling and football. He works his socks off. So does David McNamara, and that those guys deserve a huge credit for what they do as well.
Without a doubt, and they're, I suppose, the quieter wing of the club, if you like, in the sense that they're not the fellas that lads will be talking about that often, but their work rate. I watched David McNamara last week. Oh Lord God, he went up and down the field, and his work rate in that football game, and he's been the same all year. He's been a leading light, you know, and they have so many match winners. Even go back to the hurling semi-final, you know, Danny Russell went off injured, but they came out in the second half and they had made what proved to be a vital move by moving David Reedy from midfield into the full forward line. You know, and so the second half was the David Reedy show in that semi-final, and he finished that game with one, I think, was it 1-9 or 1-11. You know, so they have, if things aren't going well for one player, another fellow will step up. They have gone to that level now, if you like, you know, which is a sign of a really, really good team. You know, the only question mark I would have is, you know, how much is playing week on, particularly as weather conditions are deteriorating. How much will that take off them, if you like? You know, it's a hard thing to do, and it's hard to manage to keep players fit and sharp. You know, it's only a matter of, I suppose, just managing their fitness levels from week to week. You know, they have the fitness, but, you know, recovery, I suppose, is crucial at this stage of the year, and particularly for lads who are playing every week. You know, and that's the big question: can they maintain that? And you have a certain amount of the Ballier lads who were doing that as well. Like, you know, even look at Pierce Dillis, you know, captain of Clare, that were so disappointed themselves last week with their loss. But, you know, he's been key this year with Ballier. He's made a massive contribution, you know, and he has to put last week's disappointment behind him now and come out again this weekend and try and lift the game. You know, for that thing. So that's a difficult thing, I suppose, for the teams to be managing that thing. But they have been doing it. You know, they've been doing it really, really well. So
absolutely, they have. If you could say that about Aerogue and their lads, I mean, Massey Gavin came up the last day for Ballier, and he scored 6 points against the Cracklaw team, like, who wouldn't be known for giving away too many frees or too many scores in the forward line. So, you know, that was a huge game for Massey. Aaron Griffin on the other side, a noted footballer, inter-county footballer, great hurler as well. You know, so, and, you know, Stanley Dean is there, like, Stanley's a steady man, like, and you know, Pierce Lillis now, he'd be very disappointed after last Sunday, but back he'd want to get a medal before the year ends.
That's right. I think he got 3 points in the semi-final. You know, he mightn't have been noted for his scores, we'll say, but his work rate is massive. You know, and he creates a lot of the scoring opportunities. But as you say, Massey Gavin, the last 6 points, and all 6 from play. Yeah. You know, for a young fella like that, you know, who wouldn't have been, we'll say, who hadn't the inter-county experience that some of the lads around him had. But, you know, they have been doing that all year. Paul Flanagan is having an outstanding year, both for the county and now with the club. You know, his first touch is absolutely unbelievable. And it'll be interesting to see, you know, what role he's given this week. Will he be asked to mark Tony Kelly? Would he be asked to mark Shane O'Donnell? You know, there's so many question marks, things like that, and so many decisions to be made by the respective management teams, and you know, that will interest the pundits. But both sides have top class players in every sector of the pitch. Like, you can go back to Barry Coote in goal for Aero or for Ballier, and not too many might have known about him, but he produced 2 outstanding saves in the last game. You know, and he has grown in confidence in this campaign, no more so than Philly Welsh at the other side. You know, and so there's an awful lot to be looking forward to this weekend. You know, small things change games from time to time, and fellas that mightn't have been standing out up to now can turn a game, and maybe they may be the stars this week. You know, but this is one I feel. This is a game I feel that will go down to the wire, and it wouldn't surprise me if there was a replay. It would not surprise me, because you know, there's a lot at stake.
Along with Paul Flanagan in there, you've got Brandon O'Connell and Peter Casey. They're 2 powerful men in the full back line. So, you know, I would imagine they'll be keeping their full back line. Aero will probably try and pull them out, but I think those lads will keep their positions, like, because they'll have to just kind of crowd out that full. They can't allow David Reedy to come in and get the room he got against the Bridge, and then you have the Shane O'Donnell factor thing, so they'll have to keep.
Yeah, and the Danny Russell factor. Hopefully, he'll be fully fit. Like, he left the game earlier the last day because of an injury. they'll be hoping that he'll be back, because he must be one of the best free takers in club hurling anywhere. He has a massive role to play. And while they have the backup, it's kind of a good team. They have backup in David Reedy, who took over the frees the last day, and he looked as if he was taking them all his life. But Danny Russell, still, they will be hoping that he'll be fit and that he'll be able to take his place. And as you say, Ballyea full backline are unlikely to move too far out the field, because between David Reedy, Danny Russell, Shane O'Donnell, either of those or a combination of all three in around the full forward line. You'll need plenty of defenders to try and limit their chances.
Yeah. So I suppose it's a huge game to look forward to. I think it's going to be a cracker. I don't think a team can arrive at a county final and they haven't been there for a while, and they can kind of the nerves and all that. But that won't happen with Aero, because a lot of them have been in the football. They've been in semi-finals. So I think it's going to be a cracking game. Really looking forward to it. You would pay any money.
It certainly is. And apart from the football, like you have the Shane O'Donnells and David Reedys, who have been playing at the highest level on the inter-county front. So nerves aren't going to be an issue for them. This is what they do, and they love doing it, and they can do it week after week after week, and they've been totally focused on this championship all season. So there's so many so much to look forward to. It's the one final that I'm really, really looking forward to, and it will probably, I suppose, bring to a conclusion a weekend that sees 4 adult hurling finals, down for decision between Friday night and up to Sunday. So there's a lot to look forward to this weekend.
Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to Aine Kildemona and my own club, and my own nephew Paul Gann as the manager. So they're playing at a 6 Mile Bridge outfit, who no doubt have Niall Gilligan and company. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
A season 6 Mile Bridge team, So who'll start as favourites? Like, that's on Sunday at noon in Tulla, and you have a big intermediate final Saturday, and you have the Senior B final Friday night. So there's lots to look forward to, and a lot of top class players in action in all those games.
Yeah, and the intermediate final is really one to look forward to as well. We didn't really divulge into that one, but we'll be talking about it next week. But
it is. They're neighbouring clubs. Yeah. Tulla went down 2 years ago after 40 years as a senior club, and they went down in the 40th anniversary of becoming a senior club, so that was disappointing for them. But in a year that has seen history made in Tulla with the winning of the Harty Cup by the local secondary school, the opening of the magnificent new stand and all the facilities that's there with it, I suppose from that point of view, I think Jim McInerney said to me the other day, if they could win this one, to be the icing on the cake. But St. Joseph's, this is their 4th final in recent weeks. They won the Junior A. They were beaten in the Junior Premier final narrowly by the bridge. They were beaten after extra time in the minor final. So they were beaten in this intermediate final 12 months ago. It was a bit of a shock at the time, I suppose, because they were favourites. And I think they were beaten in the semi-final the previous 2 years. And they won the intermediate title not that long ago, but after a couple of years went back down again. So, but they have a lot of players coming through various levels, and the underage structure is strong there, So for either side, going up at this time, would be good, because Tulla with the players coming through from that secondary school team in the school or in the local school, and they have a good underage structure as well at the moment. Either of those clubs coming up, you'd say that the future is good because they have the backup.
Yeah, both teams desperate to come back up, of course, and that's what will make it such an intriguing final as well. So that's
and the Senior B final is much to look forward to as well.
Yeah,
Clonlara and Fecal on Friday night.
Yeah,
they met in the final last year. It went to extra time, and Fecal won it by 2 points. A high-scoring game, 225 to 417. They met in the first round of the Senior Championship this year, and Fecal won again, but this time by just 1 point, 117, 116. So there's little between them, and Clonlara definitely want to turn the tables on this one and make a third time lucky, if you like, in the recent meetings between them. But there's a lot to look forward to in that game as well, because both clubs really wanted it. The Senior B doesn't often lend itself to excitement, in the sense that a lot of the clubs that qualify for it, if you like, don't want to be there because they want to be in the main event. But these two didn't want to be there, but they're there, and they will give it everything. And anyone that's interested in a game on Friday night, this could be one to go to in 6 Mile Bridge.
That's it.